Welcome to the kingdom. I'm Chris, and this is Good Enough Gaming. Hello everybody, and welcome to the penultimate video on learning to play one-page rules. In this video, we're going to take a look at special rules. Special rules are what make units and armies unique, what sets a hero apart from rank-and-file soldiers, what separates a basic weapon from a really powerful one, and what really gives the game some of its unique flavor. Now, not every model or every weapon in the game has special rules, but it's important to know when they do and how to use them. When you spend points building an army in Army Forge, those points are partially reflecting a unit's special rules. So if you don't know what they are or how to use them, you're not getting the most out of your models, and you're paying for points that give you abilities and benefits that you're not taking advantage of. Now, fortunately, One-Page Rules has made it very easy to locate the special rules, know how to use them, and know when they apply. The rulebook has a section that lists all of the universal special rules for the game alphabetically, or at least most of them. So that's one place to look. However, there are some special rules that are unique to specific armies or specific units that aren't going to be listed there. Those are just the universal ones. Those specialist ones that are unique to armies and units can be found on the Army Forge. Let's go to the Army Forge and work with the Robot Legion. On the Robot Legion Army page, we can see a list of all the special rules that can be found among the various units of this army. Now, some of them will apply to pretty much all of the units, like self-repair. Others will apply only to some units, but if it's on this list, it means that something in the Robot Legion army uses it, and there won't be anything that the Robot Legion uses that isn't either specifically on this list or in the universal list in the main rule book. So let's start building a new army and explore these special rules a little bit. We'll start off with a Robot Lord because every army needs some kind of a general. Now, once we've added this Robot Lord, we can see that even before adding, customizing, changing equipment, anything like that, the Robot Lord already has 5 special rules listed under his unit card: Hero, Robot, Self-Repair, Slow, and Tough. Now, if you're using the Army Forge on a tablet, on a phone, or a PC, all you have to do is tap or scroll over the special rule, and it will tell you exactly what it does. So that way, in the middle of a game, you just simply click on it or tap on it, and you've got the explanation right in front of you. Makes it very, very handy. So let's take a look at some of these and get an idea of what the Robot Lord does. Hero is a special rule that allows the model to join a unit as a bodyguard. Now, it can't join any other model with the hero rule, but you can have a unit act as a bodyguard for this particular model. Robot is something unique to the Robot Legions, and it has to do with how they handle morale checks. Because they're robots, they don't feel fear, so running away from combat because of morale doesn't make much sense. So instead, they have this special rule that tells you how they treat morale tests. Self-repair is one of the reasons why I love playing the Robot Legions, because I think it's really cool. Whenever they take a wound, they roll 1 die. On a 6+, that wound is ignored. Makes them really resilient, because no matter what you hit them with, there's always that chance that you'll roll a clutch regeneration. Well, it's not officially regeneration, but you'll roll the clutch self-repair and the model won't die. Slow is kind of a counterbalance. It's not a very good rule. I lose 2 inches whenever I advance, or 4 inches whenever I rush or charge. So the robots, they may be tough, but they're also very, very slow and ponderous. Then over here, tough is a very interesting and very unique rule. It gives the model more health. So the number in parentheses there is how many wounds that model has. All models have 1 by default, so if you don't see tough, it means the model 1 hit and it's dead. Whereas with the Robot Lord, if it fails, if it gets a hit and it fails its defense roll, instead of dying, that reduces from a 3 to a 2. And then the next time it suffers a wound, it goes down to a 1. And then after that last wound is removed, that's when the Robot Lord is taken away. So you can start combining things. For example, use its hero to put it in a unit as a bodyguard. If that unit has self-repair, it means that your opponent is going to have to whittle through that entire unit worth of models to then get to the Robot Lord, who himself has 3 wounds. So you can start to get an idea now of how to maybe stack and use some of these special rules. Now, if we take a look at the warrior unit, one of the units that can serve as a bodyguard. Notice it has some of the same special rules, robot, self-repair, and slow, but it doesn't have hero, and it doesn't have tough. And if we put in, for example, the Tri-Scorpion Lord, this particular hero has many of the same special rules. It has hero, robot, self-repair, and tough, but notice it's a toughness 6. It has 6 wounds before it dies. This is a really beefy hero. It has Strider. It can move through difficult terrain as if it's not there. It has Relentless. It packs more of a punch when it shoots. But because it has all of these extra benefits, it's also 3 times the cost of the Robot Lord. We can also use the Army Forge to learn about special rules with specific weapons. So for example, the Warrior unit here. If we come down to its unit card, we'll notice that there's a bunch of weapons that we can replace one of the Gauss rifles in that unit. So maybe we want to put a flamethrower in there. That has a 12-inch range, 1 attack, and then it has this blast special rule and reliable. Or maybe if we come down here, the Fusion Caster, it has an AP of 4 and it does deadly 3. So whatever weapon you're choosing, you have a chance to see what it does, to see what its special rules are, to see what its kind of uniqueness is, to decide if you want to put it in the unit or not. Maybe you're going to make this unit a long-range fire support unit, so you'd go with the Raycaster because it's got a 30-inch range, it's got a decent AP, and it's got lock-on, ignores cover and all negative modifiers to hit rolls and range. Or maybe you're going to give it this Fusion Caster, much shorter range, but it's a heck of a lot more dangerous up close. So this is why I think building lists is one of the funnest things about games like this. Putting it together, creating units that have very specific purposes, that you've tailor-made for a specific duty or a specific task in a game, and then seeing how it does, building one unit to counter another. That's what I think the fun part is. It'd be like playing chess, only you get to decide what kinds of pieces and how many rather than having to use what's already set up. Now, another interesting thing about Army Forge is you don't even need to have an electronic version to have quick access to all the special rules. If you click the eye icon that's in the top right of the Army Forge for View List, where it brings up the card view of the army you've just created, all of the special rules for that particular unit are included right there underneath the main stats of quality and defense. It also has them down here in case you are using a tablet or a phone. But if not, here you have rending down here, and here's what rending means up there. So this way you can print it out on a piece of paper. Maybe you're teaching a friend to play, maybe you're running some kind of event, you need to hand out copies of all the different units for everyone to play. It's all there right in front of you. Now, there's not enough time to go through all of the special rules that the game has in one video. I'll let you do that on your own as you explore the different armies and units and weapons and all that kind of stuff. However, there are a few special rules that you're going to run into probably more often no matter what army you play, so I figured we'll go through some of those right now. Now, first there's Hero and Tough. We learned about those when we were looking through the rules for our Robot Lord. Hero allows you to join a unit as a bodyguard. Tough gives that particular model a few more wounds before it finally dies. The next special rule you'll probably run into quite a bit is Slow and or Fast. Now, we looked at Slow with the Robot Lord. Fast is the opposite. Whereas Slow removes 2 inches from advance and 4 from charge, Fast adds 2 inches to advance and 4 inches to rush and charge. That means that those units advance 8 inches and charge 16. They can move incredibly fast. The next special rule you'll see quite a bit is Blast. Blast is meant to represent the explosion of things like grenades or missiles where, yeah, it's one projectile, but it has the capacity to hit multiple models. So Blast will always have a number in parentheses next to it, kind of like Tough. And what that means is, for every successful hit on 1 dice, you multiply the number of dice that your opponent is going to have to defend by the number in Blast. So if it says Blast 3, you roll 1 dice and score 1 hit, your opponent will actually have to make 3 saves. Now there is one caveat here. No matter what the number of Blast is, you cannot hit more units than there are models in the unit. So if a unit only has 2 models left and you hit it with a Blast 3 weapon, your opponent will still only roll 2. However, if you have a weapon that shoots twice and has Blast 3, each of those attacks, if successful, will hit each of those models twice. So you'll get 4 total wounds, but not 6. The next special rule you'll see quite a bit is Deadly. These are weapons that if the save is unsuccessful, if you hit an enemy model and they don't make their defense, it doesn't do just 1 damage, it does the number of wounds as the number in parentheses next to deadly. So a deadly 3 weapon means if a character with a toughness 3 fails a single save against that weapon, it will remove all 3 points of damage and that hero is dead. So typically, models or weapons that have some kind of rule of deadly are meant either to kill characters or they do a lot of damage to things like monsters and vehicles. You typically don't want to waste deadly weapons against rank and file troops because it's like killing a mosquito with a cannon. The next rule you'll see quite frequently in a lot of armies is rending. Rending gives a particular weapon an AP value of 4 on any attack, any dice roll to hit that scores a 6. So for example, with the Robot Legions, their basic weapons have AP nothing, but if you roll a 6 to hit, that particular shot has rending, it has an AP of 4, which typically means no matter what you're shooting at, they're going to need a 6 in order to save. Now the last special rule that you'll see quite a bit is Caster. Caster turns that hero usually into a magic wielder, a psyker, someone who can manipulate the arcane powers and arts. Casters are one of the most interesting models in the game. They can be tremendously powerful or they can whiff like no other. Now, if we've made one of our heroes into a spellcaster, what's really nice is all of the spells and descriptions will automatically be added to our army sheet by ArmyForge. Every single army has 6 spells that are unique to that specific army. And with the new update with 3.2, they have clarified you cannot use anybody else's spells, only the ones that are unique to your army. Now, when you make one of your heroes a caster, like Deadly, like Blast, there'll be a number in parentheses next to the word caster. That lets you know what level of caster that particular hero is. Now, when you assign a particular level, that has a lot to do with what that caster can do once you're in the game. So, for example, when a caster is activated, it gains a number of spell tokens equal to its value, and a caster can spend as many tokens as it has. It can save them, but it can never have more than 6. Each spell in the Army's rulebook has a level of 1 to 3. To cast that spell, the caster must spend spell tokens equal to the level of the spell. 1 point for a level 1 spell, 2 points for a level 2 spell, and so on. A caster can cast as many spells as they have points for, but never the same spell more than once in a single activation. Once the points are spent to cast, the caster rolls a dice, and on a 4+, the spell goes off. On a 1 through 3, nothing happens, and the points are lost. Casters, however, can increase the chance of casting a spell successfully by spending additional spell tokens. So each token spent increases the dice roll for that spell, whether or not it goes off, by 1. And other casters within 18 inches, both friendly and enemy, can spend their own spell tokens to increase or decrease the caster's target number by 1 point per spell token spent. So for example, let's say you have an Orc caster that's a level 2. When he activates, he gets 2 spell tokens. He can spend 1 to cast a level 1 spell, and then spend the other point to improve that spell so that it goes off on a 3+. Or, he could spend both spell tokens to cast a single level 2 spell on the standard roll of a 4+. He could also just bank both of them and hold on to until his next activation, at which point he would have 4 spell tokens. Then he could spend 2 to cast a level 1 spell at 3+, then 2 more to cast a different level 1 spell at 3+, or he could spend all 4 of them to cast a level 2 spell to go off on a 2+, and so on and so on. Okay, so at this point, you can start playing some games and getting familiar with the rules of your particular army, try out different models, units, armies, see what you like. Now, at first it might seem a little bit overwhelming with all of these data and stats and rules and things like that, but don't worry, you'll pick it up pretty quick. especially if you play the same army or even the same list. You'll find yourself remembering more and more without having to look it up, and then you'll be able to play much larger games in the same amount of time, and you get to focus on tactics and strategy and watching the dice rolls rather than consulting books and lists and trying to get the rules straight. So, what are you waiting for? Get some models, get some dice, and start blowing stuff up. Yeah, there is one more video in the series, so I suppose you can move on and watch that one before going and playing something. But if you've made it this far, you've been through 7 videos and you haven't rolled any dice yet. So go throw some dice. Then come back and we'll learn about terrain and cover. I'll wait.